You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week we cover news and events from the week that was, talking Mexico-based promotions and top independents, along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast streaming platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Speaker, and more. And of course, a big shout out to one of our distributing partners at thechairshot.com. My name is Miranda Morales, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast, and let me bring in the rest of the team. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how's it going?
It's going fantastic. How's it going for you, Miranda?
I am doing well. And, well, in order to finish off this trio right here, I gotta bring in the third member of that team, and that's who?
Who?
It's the one and only Brendan Barr.
That's who.
Hey, how we doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, that's what I like.
The word of the week is well. Good to be back with,
bien, perhaps?
Bien, muy bien.
Bien.
Yeah, see, Dusty saw where I was going.
Man, I was going to say it's good to be back with all of you for this week's episode. We got a little change in the format this week, something that we're doing a little different, because we are cramming in quite a lot of content that really has come over the past, 2 weeks. From, of course, the major Lucha Libre news, really all over the world. But we got a very concise but also informative, talkative show for all of you this week. We are super stoked to be able to talk about things that we haven't had the chance to talk about collectively. So if you're still processing some things, if there's still some things you quite haven't gotten out of your system, the good news is we're the people to talk to.
We're here to bring it back.
We're going to bring it back. Yes. Things that you thought you were over, you're not over. You're not over it.
Oh, I know I'm not over it.
Yeah, you're not over it, and that's okay. We're gonna take this episode to kind of rehash some things, look a little bit in the past, but also in the present and the future. You got to look at the whole perspective. I mean, am I right? I don't know.
Yes,
sorry. You were so right.
You can't look forward
without looking back.
Yes, you can't look forward without looking back. Thank you so much. I mean, I guess technically that's how you look forward. Like, forward is one direction. It's gonna hurt my head trying to rationalize
You're
this.
thinking too hard.
Thinking too hard, Miranda. Let's stop that. So, this week we're gonna go straight into it, and we're gonna jump into the big topic in the world of Lucha Libre, really for the past few weeks, and that is TripleMania. So much happened, during last week's TripleMania show, and some things that have kind of continued, since then. So, Dusty, go ahead. Let's kick it off with TripleMania results.
Yeah, TripleMania Chapter 2, live from Estadio Caliente in Tijuana, Baja California. It happened Saturday, June the 18th. This was a very good show. It's one of the better TripleMania shows they've had. Excellent. Started out And the first match of the night was the women's cage match for the Women's Ruleta de la Muerte tournament. The last two left in the cage advanced to the Women's Ruleta final, which is an apuestas match. But we had Chic Tormenta and Flammer losing to La Hydra, Sexy Star 2, Lady Shani, Maravilla, and Reina Dorada. And kind of a surprise there. Everybody, including myself, thought Sexy Star 2 was for sure to lose the mask because the gimmick feels a little tainted by Sexy Star 1. But the whole thing carried over. Honestly, a pretty exciting cage match. Second match on the card, Nino Hamburguesa defeated Ray Sholo, Mamba, Mr. Iguana, Dolce Canela, Abismo Negro Jr., Heavy Metal, Charlie Manson, Pagano, Cybernetico, Bestia 666, Vampiro in his AAA debut, and Mr. Mecha Wolf in the Copa TripleMania.
Yes. Such a long-awaited debut.
Yes. No, I love Vampiro. That was just one of the most vivid moments of the podcast history for me. It was Vampiro.
He literally said it, but maybe but now he gets to recognize this is his debut. If this is how he wants to recognize it, then that's fine.
I'm good with that. They played his fucking music. He was real happy. So everything coming up Vampiro.
Oh, that's a deep cut too.
Oh my gosh.
Dr. Wagner was supposed to be in this match. It kind of tumbled out that he wasn't in it. This version had over-the-top rope eliminations, specifically, allegedly, so that Pagano and Cybernetico could eliminate each other in a double elimination. They brawled after the match. Nino Hamburguesa was kind of a surprise win, too, so that was pretty exciting. Nice to see him in that spot.
Honestly, it's about time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was definitely surprised because he's known as this more comical character.
Yeah, and a trios guy usually.
Yeah, and a trios guy. So to kind of have that singles win, especially for the Copa, is like a pretty,
Yeah. Well, he's trios and mixed. Like was the mixed champion for a long time too. But
he and Big Mommy. Yeah.
Super popular. Right? Like he's just he carried a lot of cards during the lockdown era. Like he was he and Big Mommy and their feud with Lady Maravilla was, kind of carrying a lot of television during the lockdown era. So
it really
kind
was.
of a reasonable reward, especially I don't know what's going on with Big Mommy, but I haven't seen her on TV in a little while, so I'm wondering if she's got the injury bug.
Yeah. And that's also, the Copa is generally a sign of recognition, not a sign of future push, but at the same time, it kind of feels like Nino Hamburguesa is on his way up with this match. I mean, this is definitely his highest profile win ever, I feel like. So, big deal. Very exciting. Next up, we had Phoenix winning the Cruiserweight and Latino Americano Championship unification match against Io del Vikingo, Laredo Kid, and Bandito and Taurus. And Phoenix pinned Taurus. This match was insane. Laredo Kid had been the Cruiserweight champion. I believe Taurus had been the
Latin American.
Yeah, Latin American champion. And
so was Phoenix already the Latin American champion? I have to look that up. Now it's going to bother me.
I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was Taurus, but I honestly don't remember. Yeah. After the match, Phoenix and Vikingo kind of faced off to tease, a match between them, and, that's exactly what everybody wants. It was very exciting. Bandito left the ring on a stretcher. Yeah, there was a lot going on in this match.
Yeah.
It was one of the better, it was one of the better matches of the night, and that's really saying something.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you thought it was match of the night, because it's one of my contenders for match of the night.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. It was...
Yeah, it was Taurus that came in as the champion.
Yes, he did come in as the champion, and he had a 413-day reign. compared
the
to
same stat
Wow.
page. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and on top of, I think too, the fact that Laredo Kid, losing the Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah, this was his 14th defense, so he had it for quite a while and was a fighting champion, which was very cool.
I do like to further the internet joke here. Taurus did defeat the future Hall of Famer, Vacant for that title.
Of course, yes. And I was gonna say, I think, speaking of acknowledging things too, I think still, Laredo Kid is at a 1,200 day, reign. Still not acknowledging Leo Rush, who won it, back in 2021. So we just don't talk about that. We don't talk about Leo Rush's AAA Cruiserweight Championship reign.
Leo Rush won a AAA belt? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Leo Rush probably doesn't either, so that's okay.
Yeah. I think of the clips, I still see, Hijo de Vikingo was really one of the major highlights of that match. There were so many,
yes.
But all of them just, I think this was such a beautiful display of, agility and of course, a lot more of those quote unquote spot fests, but done in the best way.
Yeah, you knew it was going to be that. There was no way with the names you had, it was not going to.
But it was next level though too. Yeah, right. It was next level.
It really was.
But
so many times you hear the big names like this and they don't deliver on the promise or they don't go as hard as they should have. But this match, it was 20 minutes long and it went hard. It was crazy. And it's exactly what you expect. Mm-hmm. And like I say, the Phoenix and Vikingo showdown after the match got me very excited for that pairing. I know a lot of people are excited for that. I can't wait. I'm hoping maybe we'll get to see it in AEW just because we haven't seen many successful, title defenses in Mexico for AAA stars this year.
It's a new unfortunate trend, but
yeah,
maybe it'll reverse sometime soon.
Hopefully we get to see Vikingo do that. I really thought Vikingo was the natural winner in the match. The Phoenix winning was a big surprise to me. And great match. Next up in the Ruleta de la Muerta semifinal, we had Blue Demon Jr. defeating Pentagon Jr. There was a destroyer through the table at the end. It was crazy. Blood everywhere. Finally, the destroyer gets to be a finisher again. I hate destroyers as a transitional move because I still remember the first time I ever saw Jack Evans give a destroyer. Blew my mind. And I thought that was the coolest move ever. So I enjoyed seeing it. And Demon is in his 50s to be busting out the destroyer like that, looking great. Surprisingly great match, especially with Demon in it. He has a tendency to be a little sluggish, not to do anything to make his opponent look good. They were bloody. It was crazy.
It's very interesting to me that Blue Demon and the Blue Demon Jr., in the second half of his career is now known as more of a brutal blood and guts wrestler than the Technico that he was when he was younger.
Yeah.
It is a very interesting second life.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, a sign of what, is popular and kind of maybe even leaning, not in a bad way, but leaning into something that fans are drawn to.
No, it's a wonderful sign that he's able to adapt and adjust to stay relevant with the fans. It works for me. It's worked every time that he's done it. And now he's known for the hammer, even though the hammer didn't work in his favor this time.
Yeah.
All of this, and I will always look back on the Dr. Wagner feud as just a kind of an eye-opening moment where I saw Blue Demon in a different light.
This match too, like I say, Blue Demon, you don't always know what you're going to get in his matches, but this was as good as it possibly could have been. It was so good. And highly recommend this match. And then next up, we had the women's mask versus match, apuestas match, the finals from the Ruleta de la Muerte women's tournament. Flammer versus Cheek Tormenta. Reiko and the Tiger. Reiko is Cheek Tormenta's husband. The Tiger is Flammer's husband. They were kind of like their wives' seconds, kind of lumberjacks outside the ring, and eventually got involved, as did Los Vipers, Toxin Latigo, and Abismo Negro Jr. Eventually, Flammer puts Cheek Tormenta through the table to secure the win, and Cheek Tormenta revealed her true identity was Cristina Azpeta Ramirez. She's from Guadalajara and had been wrestling for 16 years.
Nice.
And I believe she had just had like a big kind of, not necessarily star making, but definitely attention grabbing moment at Expo Lucha, didn't she?
Cheek
Tormenta, yes.
Or
Or was she not there?
No.
I don't believe she made it.
Okay.
No.
I was trying to remember if she made it by Sunday, but I don't think she did.
Okay.
No,
Maybe
did
she
not.
didn't.
Yeah, Miranda would know.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. But this was,
I did want to point out,
ahead.
since you mentioned it, this is one of the part of the pageantry that is the apuestas match. They almost always have seconds. Like, it's not always the significant others. Usually it's someone like, that they're, a lot of the time in CMLL matches, it'll be their teachers, their profes that'll be out there with them. Or if they're from factions, they'll have a faction mate out there with them. But that was a thing it's a thing you can pretty consistently see in apuestas matches. They will have that second out there. And sometimes they will be involved in the storyline, or they will be involved in reminding them, hey, this is what you signed up for. So you sit down in that chair. He's going to cut your hair. Just kind of since not everybody here has watched, hundreds of hours of Lucha, I thought I'd just remind people about that.
Yeah, that's true, and it's a great point. And it was also interesting for this match where the husbands were less famous than the wives. They were more
I loved that part
local,
of it.
regional.
Yeah,
It made the women the stars, but the men got to be involved, and yeah, it was interesting.
And it added to the story that it was both of their spouses, as opposed to like one spouse and one teacher or something.
Right. Added a lot. Great match, honestly. Highly recommend that. And then we had the final, the main event. We had Psycho Clown defeating Viano 4. He pinned Viano 4 after an air raid crash onto thumbtacks on the ring. This match was, again, bloody, intense. Honestly, the best match it could be. Like, I was surprised how great this match was. It sets up Viano 4 versus Pentagon and a mask versus match, a apuestas match on October the 15th in Mexico City, ostensibly as the main event of TripleMania 30 Chapter 3. But that was kind of the surprise. Everybody thought that it was either building to Blue Demon Jr. versus Viano or Psycho Clown versus Penta. And the Viano versus Penta,
I feel like they did this
clear
to subvert expectations, because the internet was pretty loud and vocal about they thought they knew whichever one of those two matchups it was.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm curious about, how, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was this always the plan, the booking and just fans kind of booked themselves into a corner, or was there any, like you said, Brendan, was this kind of maybe a reaction to the internet response or fan response?
The people behind it, Conan and several others are smart people. Conan is very internet savvy. He's got his own podcast. He's got a staff of people that are able to aggregate what the opinions of his stuff is going on. So, both are highly possible. I don't want to make it sound like this absolutely had to be a reaction, because it could have been the plan all along, and just because they knew the internet might guess the other way. But at the same time, we've got a savvy staff of people that know that if it's predictable and it's in the main event, they're not gonna, or the semi-main, they're not gonna see, they're not gonna be as excited when it happens. So who knows? This is another one where, I wanted to point out too, Viano 4 has done the hardcore style all of his life, and boy, God, you don't need to keep doing it. I was afraid for your life. I've stunned everyone into silence by pointing out
Into silence, I was going to say.
Sorry. Yeah, my mute button was on after I cleared my throat. But yeah, I was talking about how exciting, how violent Psycho Clown versus Viano was.
It was.
So all of that excitement, just so,
violent,
and then you're muted.
Match. Yeah, no, it was all over the, like, I was always pleased to see that, and even with Psycho Clown winning, I did actively throw something when Psycho Clown got the pinfall blow.
Well, and like everybody we've kind of mentioned, first of all, Viano 4, 57 years old. That's incredible at his age that he had this match. Took the bump onto the thumbtacks, but everybody assumed once Pinto lost that Psycho Clown was going to lose. So him winning, like we've kind of mentioned, subverted expectations in such a way that I feel like I don't know. I just thought it was so perfect the way they did it, and it just, everything came together, and
Whether it was the chicken or the egg, it was the right choice. So even still, sorry,
I guess
one last Psycho Clown jab there.
I guess that wasn't the main event.
No,
I mentioned it as the main event, but that is incorrect. That was the final or the semifinal for the related. The main event was Dragon Lee and Dralistico defeating Matt Hardy and surprise luchador sorpresa Johnny Caballero. Instead of being Johnny Caballero, this time he was Johnny Hardy. They explained it early in the show. It was
nice little
but
vignette.
it actually was better. Like, it just, the fact that it made sense because it didn't make sense.
Right. It was so lucha, and he did Jeff Hardy like if Jeff Hardy was a real dick. Like, the way he just did everything, it was so good. It's so, this is exactly what I love about John Morrison, Johnny Mundo, whatever you want to call him. He is so good. No matter what you give him, he knows how to take it and do it exactly right. The Johnny Drip Drip thing was genius. America's Most Wet or whatever. I can't remember what he was calling himself. He had all these funny things that he was going on, and just so good. Had a genius turn in this match like he always does. After Johnny and Matt Hardy bumped into each other, he just kind of went off the rails and decided he'd had enough of that. And Dragon Lee Dralistico then beat Matt Hardy for the win. Johnny tried to attack the Hermanos Lee afterwards, but Matt Hardy took him out with a twist of fate, then shook hands with the Lee brothers. It was an interesting finish. It was honestly the best they could have done. Like Miranda said, I thought the way they leaned into it and just tried to make it fun and funny and take the piss out of the whole thing with not having Jeff Hardy there was genius.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't care for the Johnny Hardy thing, doing the Jeff Hardy stuff, the juking and all that, but John Morrison, he is a treasure. Or Johnny Caballero, Johnny Elite. Trying to think. There's others I'm forgetting, but he's had a lot of names.
Well, almost anytime he does a new show. But I feel like Johnny Mundo is his default AAA name. Even though he didn't win, even though he wasn't necessarily the star of the match, to me, he was really the star. He took what was kind of an uncertain and bizarre situation and really, turned chicken shit into chicken salad and did it in a great way and made it so much fun to watch as a fan. I do want to give a shout out to Cubs fan over at Lucha Blog, who was the only person on the internet that I saw that correctly predicted Johnny Hardy. So I once he said it, I knew he was right, but I did not, before he said it, think that it was going to be Johnny Hardy. And so, I mean, he does have his finger on the pulse. He knows what's going on. He read well enough who was in the area and the kind of level of person they would probably get. So,
Yeah. And to be fair, it was way better than anybody expected too. Like,
yeah.
I feel like in the beginning when people were saying that it might be Johnny Mundo, that everybody was like, come on, that's like the worst possible choice.
Right.
And then they did it and it paid off and worked so well. Highly recommend.
Yeah, people just underestimate how flexible he is, and I don't mean physically.
No, he's so adaptable. He has so much personality and charisma that literally transcends language, Like, how insane is that, and just like someone who can literally be put in any situation and still shine. And, in some ways there was definitely, some trending thoughts on, social media of, Johnny Hardy doing it better than Jeff Hardy, like.
Yeah, unfortunately I will agree with them. I think he's a better Jeff Hardy at this point in Jeff Hardy's career than Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
But.
It's true. He can at least do the Swanton correctly.
Okay, we didn't have to say that part out loud.
Yeah, like we all knew it, but some of it is not well, I don't even know how comparable they are in age. They're both pretty.
Yeah, they've been around quite a while, both of them.
Yeah. I mean, technically Jeff Hardy's older, so that works against him. But yeah, Johnny Mundo Morrison, Nitro Elite.
I mean, without Googling it, I can tell you, Jeff Hardy was doing dark matches during the Attitude Era, while Johnny Mundo was only showing up on episodes of Tough Enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll tell you the difference in their age without saying their age.
Jeff Hardy is only 2 years older than Johnny Mundo.
He
is 44 and Mundo is 42.
Right. Well, yeah, it's been a long, hard road for Jeff Hardy. We've documented that on this show.
And I'm like, damn, Jeff, only 44?
Yeah, I thought he was 50 already.
Yeah. He should sue somebody.
Oh, man. Yes. I mean, overall, I've heard really good reviews of this TripleMania. I think it was very well received and very entertaining, and I think just at least online buzz was very positive. Was that your guys' perception as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so,
it seemed like... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you do yours.
Everybody that I talked to really enjoyed the show. And, I mean, I thought it was one of the better TripleMania shows in existence. The last one was really good too, but I think it was a top 10.
So for me, the circles I was in and me personally, it was being compared to the previous TripleMania, right? That was Monterey.
Yes, Monterey.
Yeah. So Monterey was one of the best TripleManias I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I'm already comparing it in my head to the scale and scope of that one. And it didn't quite measure up to that, but it's still a really good event, right? Had Monterey not been so over the top, it would be one of my favorites of all time too, because it's, top to bottom, it was good. There was not a bathroom match in the bunch. There wasn't one where I'm I'll just, go ahead and go and look at the snacks. So yeah, I think, and again, my friends on the internet seem to agree with me on that. The ones that actually watched it, shake my fist at all those people.
Yeah. I feel like the amount of people that watch AAA has changed since they started charging on Fight TV instead of being on Twitch or YouTube or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the people that watch AAA are increasingly more and more positive about it now. The people that watch those shows, the wave of positivity is rising and rising. And And like Brendan mentioned, last show was great. This show was very good. Not necessarily great, but very good.
Mm-hmm.
But the build it gives for the October show, Chapter 3, I really think that show is going to be maybe the best TripleMania.
I was going to say, I'm really digging this format. I really am.
Me too.
Like,
I love
feel
the 3 nights spread out.
Yes, the 3-night over a span of, 6 months-ish. Like that, I feel they've implemented it so well. And I think that's something you don't see in wrestling. I mean, each show, there is ties in naturally, I guess, to storyline, but to have a 3-part type of, event throughout a year, I think is, something that is making AAA stand out. And also just something different for wrestling fans.
Yeah. And constantly having to explain why TripleMania is 3 nights this year is attention grabbing on its own.
Yeah.
So, but
it's so much more refreshing than like a Wrestle Kingdom or a WrestleMania that happen on consecutive nights.
Yeah.
By giving it time to breathe, it happens more organically. I believe some of the TV builds into the stories for TripleMania, like in between. But if you only watch the TripleManias, you're able to keep up on the main storylines, which is nice too. Because there's a lot of people that only watch the pay-per-views or that don't have the knowledge or ability to keep up with the TV and the space show and all that. Yeah. So it's really nice how they've set it up. We've talked about it before that AAA is kind of making their moves towards an American presence, and it feels like this is at least as important as everything else they're doing, because it really helps keep your attention but also capture your attention. A lot of cool stuff going on with AAA right now.
Yep, yes indeed. Lots and lots of cool stuff going on right now.
Well, and they're even selling AAA NFTs. They claim they're the first luchador NFTs, but, our overlord Kevin, he might have something to say.
I was going to say the grilled cheese master will definitely dispute that.
Yeah. He will definitely have a thing or two to say about that.
We talked about that during virtual Expo Lucha, so any of you that want to go back to find out what we're talking about. I mean, blatant self-promotion here. Go back and give us more clicks.
Yes, that's all on Lucha Central's YouTube page, actually. You can go back and check out the entire virtual Expo Lucha that happened. Gosh, man, that was last year.
Yeah.
2021. Oh my
gosh. Lockdown in its prime where everything had to go online, so they brought Expo Lucha online. They did a virtual signing as well, where Sikosa said he was going to retire and has since never acknowledged that conversation ever again.
Whatever, he did what he wants.
Lucha retirements are my favorite thing.
Yes.
I'm retiring for the day, gentlemen.
Yeah, it must have been a translation thing. He probably just meant retiring, like for the night. Just when he's done, he's gonna go to sleep. All right. Thank you for that review and results of TripleMania Part 2. But we still got some more to cover. Speaking of big events, AEW had a lot going on in just this past week.
Oh my gosh, we did have a lot going on in AEW. First up, it was taped June 22nd, I believe it aired June 24th, episode of Rampage. We had Andrade versus Rey Fenix. 20-minute match on TV. I mean, this was good. Like, really, really, really good. Super good, especially for a Friday night like Rampage. They're quietly putting some of the best actual wrestling matches on Rampage, and this was just amazing. Lots of flips and dives and moonsaults and, I mean, everything that you would expect. It was nuts. After, during the match, Roosh came out and attacked Phoenix. Andrade got the pin after the match. This is when it gets exciting. Rush and Andrade, they beat Phoenix down. They ripped off his mask. Penta had a shovel in his hand, chased him down with the shovel, ran him off, but they revealed shirts at La Facion INGOBERNABLE. And so not only was it one of the best matches on AEW history, we got Ingobernables again, and everybody thought it wouldn't happen, that the name couldn't happen. It was just one of those things that, especially with the Forbidden Door, we kind of touched on that before. Andrade wasn't at the Forbidden Door, a lot going on there. But with that, we got the Ingobernables back, and so that's pretty exciting. No Naito yet. Hopefully we'll see it soon.
Well,
but
that brings us to a thing. We have to talk about why this wasn't on the pay-per-view.
Yes. And
so, do you want to... It's your story. I don't want to step on your toes on this one.
No,
but...
I mean, but basically, CMLL intervened to some level with New Japan. Maybe not even intervene might be a strong word, but they quietly reminded New Japan of their agreement with
shove or a gentle nudge.
And so basically because of that, anybody that was signed to AAA in Mexico, which is not Sammy and Ty Conti, not FTR, they're signed to AEW. They just have AAA, like, per appearance contracts. Allegedly, that's what Andrade has, but it's what kept Penta and Phoenix from wrestling at Forbidden Door, was their AAA contracts. Andrade claimed, in kind of a roundabout way, that he had a per appearance deal with AAA, not an actual contract. But CMLL has a lot of hurt feelings over Andrade. It was kind of the expectation when he left WWE that he was headed for CMLL. But it's easy to forget that this was the CMLL era where there was nobody in Arena Mexico. They were having a hell of a time paying their wrestlers. There was no training going on, and they really couldn't afford Andrade. And so there were some hurt feelings when Andrade showed up in AAA instead of CMLL. And they, perhaps not incorrectly, felt that he could have turned around their financial issues. And
I have no doubt that had they announced he returned to Arena Mexico, that show, he could have wrestled a paper bag and that show would have sold out. And then they would have inevitably put him in a feud with Mystico, and that feud would sell out every time. So, yeah.
Yeah. CMLL had some hurt feelings over the whole thing. They intervened, and they were able to keep, like I say, not only the Lucha Bros, but also Andrade off of the Forbidden Door card.
And Rush.
Rush,
there's nobody involved in this angle would have been allowed on Forbidden Door, which is...
Well, and that's the rumor, is that it was going to be Rush and Andrade versus Lucha Bros at Forbidden Door. And I know! Hopefully they'll build up to it for All Out. Like, that's the way to do it, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
So I did talk, I'm going to throw this in there too, I did talk with Pep Carrera, who does the Spanish version of our show, about some of this. He did straight up say that he's actually surprised that anybody seems surprised that this happened, because according to him, everybody knows exactly what the deal is. The moment that they're in a CMLL arena, they know they're not allowed to go anywhere near AAA, period, end of story. And if you want to, even if you're on the independent circuit and you ever want to work CMLL, you are staying, you're not even in the same building, basically, as those guys. And CMLL's always had this, not always, but for a very long time, they've had this arrangement with New Japan. So, he said that he doesn't think CMLL even needed to say anything. New Japan has such a reputation of holding up their own deal, their own handshake deals.
Yes, and a sense of tradition. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They probably just honored it themselves without CMLL needing to say anything, is what Pep thinks. So,
And I could totally see that too, because like we said, New Japan, there's a lot of honor and tradition, kind of, especially in the Japanese customs and business customs. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, honestly. And
big shout out to Pep. Thanks for the info. Thanks for chatting with me about this. If you speak Spanish, I recommend their show. They are on the inside of these kind of things quite a bit. Like Pep was probably at TripleMania.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. And I mean, I'm like 99% sure I saw a picture of him near ringside, or a picture he took near ringside, if not like front row. So yeah, Pep is always in the mix. He's like the secret weapon of Lucha Central. He knows everything. He knows everybody. He understands all the politics and the backstage and the ins and outs. I mean, Pep is if there's such a thing as a lucha genius, Pep is definitely one. Very cool guy. And then we had on Dynamite this week, Luchasaurus has turned heel and joined Christian, and very interesting. He defeated Serpentico using the snare trap with a nerve hold, got his own solo theme. They've been mentioning a lot of things on Dynamite lately about, Luke Perry and Jungle Boy and all this, and I think that it's building to Jungle Boy either going by Jungle Boy Jack Perry or Jungle Jack Perry. As JR very astutely observed when AEW started, he would call him Jungle Jack Perry because he said he won't be a boy forever. And now that they're trying to get him on that solo thing, which I definitely think this is building to, I think we'll see him slightly rebranded, either Jungle Jack Perry or Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Jungle Boy is honestly a great nickname. And if Ric Flair can be the Nature Boy at 70 years old, Jack Perry can be Jungle Boy.
Right?
Yeah, there's a precedent, a wrestling precedent. But it's cool seeing Luchasaurus. I mean, he is a big ass dude. I don't know, it's hard to imagine until you've been up close to a wrestling ring. But he's one of those guys that can step over the top rope. Like, I climb under the second rope.
Yeah.
A lot of normal guys do, Like when I was a kid, I was always in awe of the Fantastics, because they would hop over the top rope as their entrance, and that's really, to do that every night, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, and and the same thing with Luchasaurus, to have the size to climb over that top rope. Yeah, he's just very interesting. I really like Luchasaurus. I think he's got one of the more exciting matches. It was just a quick squash, but something feels special about it. I mean, it's just got that je ne sais quoi right now. The heel and Christian being with him and the whole thing, and
it's the right moment.
It's really capitalizing on good attention, good heat, and not keeping a team together longer than they need to be.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of a perfect moment. And it gives Jungle Boy an instant storyline when he comes back from injury. He was written off from rehab on a legitimate injury. And AEW is really shaking things up now. Alan Angels has left. 10 from the Dark Order. It's looking, it's looking like the Dark Order might get a shakeup. Anna Jay, when she was in St. Louis, she kind of went back to her Zatanna style magician gimmick. She wasn't wearing the Dark Order colors or gear in any way. They did come out with her, but it just feels like AEW is a little bit in transition now. We've had it for about 3 years. The stories that we kind of started with aren't the stories or necessarily the same people we're seeing now. A lot of interesting stuff going on there. Next week, in sort of lucha related news, we have Scorpio Sky going up against Wardlow, and I thought I had another note, but I'm not seeing it. Yeah. So I guess I didn't. I thought I had Blood and Guts, Sammy Guevara. Yes. We got to talk about Sammy Guevara. Blood and Guts, in and of itself, very exciting match. There was a lot going on. The trio of Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz They came out together. Very cool. There have been some speculations, I guess would be the phrase or the wording, from Sean Ross Sapp. I think there were a couple of others online that Proud and Powerful may not necessarily be getting along right now. We don't really see them together. We don't see them interacting together. We don't see the tag team moments with them. Santana's kind of got his solo thing going, singles match. He's a champion down in Puerto Rico. Ortiz had that Apuestas match with no build, against Chris Jericho. It just didn't feel like it was as important as it should have been. A lot of interesting stuff going on there, but they came out. We had Claudio Castagnoli. He was there to replace Daniel Bryan. Very exciting. The former Cesaro. And this match went hard. Like, it was nuts. But the most viral moment, the one that I saw the most on Facebook and Instagram, the one everybody seemed to be talking about, Sammy Guevara. Eddie Kingston grabbed him, threw him off the top of the cage. He falls onto a platform approximately 20 feet below. Big bump, reminiscent of something New Jack would have done. Very exciting moment. Big moment for Sammy. He and Ty
New
Conti.
Jack. You went with New Jack on that?
Yeah, well,
you didn't think of Mick Foley? Because I certainly saw some Mick Foley there.
I saw Mick Foley,
yeah.
but all I could think of New Jack is Vic Grimes saying, "I can't feel my legs, Jack." Jack saying, "Good, you ain't need them." Throws him off the cage. I mean, it just reminded me of that great spot. Eddie was, I guess it was Eddie that reminded me of New Jack.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the way to phrase it.
Yeah, I could say, yeah. Yeah, Eddie's more
now.
New Jack than Undertaker, so.
Yeah, it was very cool. Big bump. Everybody loved it. I mean, it was a big match. Eddie Kingston, Santana, Ortiz, and the Blackpool Combat Club team of Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio Castagnoli won. Oh, this was great. I have to give a shout out to Jericho Appreciation Society. They came out in literally the douchiest wrestling outfits I've ever seen.
They were awful.
The red fedoras and the little red pants. Like, it was terrible. I mean, like Loverboy red leather pants. I mean, it was genuinely awful, but in the best way. Like, they really, Chris understands how to be a heel. And sometimes that starts with your presentation before you do anything. Them walking out as a group in those little outfits was incredible. Mm-hmm. The match literally went for an hour. It was the second half of Dynamite. It was wild. It was violent. It was crazy. Blood, weapons. There's the story of Eddie being mad that he didn't get the win and Claudio got the win. Yeah. So much going on the whole time. Eddie
if they follow up on that, that's brilliant storytelling. That's the thing. I mean, like, that's my only real complaint is AEW may not follow up on some brilliant things the wrestlers did, but Claudio getting the pin and not Eddie, and then Eddie's reaction to it feels like it's building to them having a feud, but we'll see.
Yeah, and they were clearly the stars of the show. That was, like the blood and guts match was, I mean, we were primed to know it was a big deal, but it was really fantastic. If you're not into blood matches, probably not your thing. But that's not necessarily my thing. I don't like hardcore matches, but I thought blood and guts was incredible. It was really.
Yeah, for me, it's just the right amount.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those of you who saw our live coverage of, TripleMania 2 years ago, will have noticed that I wasn't watching during a lot of the chess man match because it was the wrong kind of, but I was watching for most of Blood and Guts. Like, it wasn't too much blood. It wasn't too many crazy spots. I did start to turn away during the Sammy spot just because that's, I mean, even with Mick Foley having paved the way, that's hard to watch for me. Yeah. But, I thought it was a good mix.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job. It was one of the better. I mean, we talked about that Dynamite match, or Rampage match rather, being like the best Rampage match ever, one of the best AEW matches ever, truly. But they did a great job on this episode of Dynamite. Fantastic this week. Some weeks it's not great. This week I thought it was just perfect. Highly recommend the AEW talent. It seems like they've kind of hit their rhythm on the road and that things are really going good. A lot of momentum. Thunder Rosa was at Forbidden Door, defended against Toni Storm in women's match. She finally felt important and
Right.
valued in like such a great match. They came out and did it Stardom style because Tony wanted some Stardom wrestlers. He couldn't get anybody. They didn't have visas. They should have called Kevin, but they didn't have visas.
Yes,
And so
hindsight 2020.
Yeah. Hear that, TK? I know you listen because you love wrestling. Call Kevin.
Yes.
He can help you out with the
Well,
visa situation.
I do also want to spin around to something too that happened to tie in both to TripleMania and AEW, and that's Taya calling out Thunder Rosa.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that was great.
That was something, you know, very interesting. And there was definitely, of course, some clips of Thunder Rosa immediately responding. Just actually her watching the coverage and the video of Taya calling her out, and I believe she even addressed that at the press conference after Forbidden Door about that. And so that too leaves a very interesting, you know, possibility on the horizon.
Yeah, no, things are looking up for the women's division again. They
Yeah.
maybe it's the injury bug has made them more aware that they need to diversify their roster a bit more, but whatever their reasoning is, they're doing good things with more people finally. And it's good to see Thunder Rosa as the champion looking important and not like she's just holding the belt until Britt Baker is ready to be champ again.
Yeah, and they also had her at the post-match media scrum, and she came out in like her San Antonio wear, her cowboy hat and everything. Like she really felt like a champ. I mean, it really just felt like a champion showing up, and it was super cool.
Well, that does it for our AEW coverage for this week and a little bit of last week as well. Of course, you can check out luchacentral.com for AEW results. Make sure if you missed any of that, you can check out luchacentral.com. They give you the rundown of all of the matches of the shows of the week. Up next, we're going to talk about MLW and a few big announcements plus this week in MLW. We're going to start off with an announcement that hits a little bit close to home here with the Lucha Central Weekly podcast and the Master Public team, and that is MLW has announced they are going to be partnering with Boss Fight Studios to create a line and bring to life a partnership with MLW for action figures and collectibles that are going to be available that highlight some of Major League Wrestling's most iconic and popular fighters. And if you have ever seen a Boss Fight Studios action figure, you would be impressed with the level of detail and also just the real life aspects of it, the detail of tattoos and facial expressions, and even all of the what would you say, accessories, if you like to call them, like steel chairs and kendo sticks, all of that. So this is very exciting for MLW to partner with Boss Fight Studios. I got to see some Boss Fight Studios figures live at Expo Lucha, and I was just thoroughly impressed. And MLW even put out a little teaser of what they've been working with Boss Fight Studios on their social media at Major League Wrestling. And it's just a great highlight video that kind of gives a sneak peek of what to expect with their collection. That includes some names that have already been thrown out there, like Fatu, Hammerstone.
Oh man, that guy's getting an action figure. Never gonna hear the end of that.
Never going to hear. And it's going to be a good one, too, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be,
Yeah, it better be like one of the elite ones with
yes.
the really nice detail. Yeah.
Yeah. Oz Kruger is also looking like he's gonna have his own action figure, as well as fun accessories, stairs, chairs, and even their own custom ring. So no timeline has been established yet, but MLW alluded to social media that the first wave is coming out next year in 2023. So it'll be very exciting to see what this first wave looks like. And again, just these ideas come to life. Boss Fight Studios, I mean, they're just a high level, of a company. I mean, we've already seen it a little bit with the figures that they have released. There's some more just that Boss Fight Studios is doing on their own. But again, it's very close to home for the Lucha Central Weekly podcast and Mass Republic team, as Boss Fight really is the provider of action figures for Mass Republic sponsored luchadors and luchadoras. So
Eric, I know you're listening. Give me a Holodead figure.
Yes.
That would be sick. That would be sick. We already have the Taya figure, not MLW related.
Yeah.
So they'd
be on the same scale. They would work together.
Exactly.
See, you picked up what I'm putting down, Miranda. I want a Holodead figure, and I mean, I'll even take a Psycho Clown figure, but it's gonna get put through the table a lot.
Yes. Also, big news that came out of Major League Wrestling this week. MLW announced that they're going to be hosting Fury Road, and it's actually going to be presented by Promoción 915656 out of El Paso, Texas. Very big to have MLW really focusing in El Paso, and this partnership with Promoción 915656, a very well-known Lucha Libre promotion that, again, is right on that border, that hosts events often, and is also just a big promoter of course, AAA talent, but also Texas talent as well. So the actual event is scheduled for Saturday, August 27th, and is going to be a Fusion TV taping. So we know that there's going to be probably several hours of taping, and that we'll see them released later on in the year on Major League Wrestling's YouTube channel. And again, too, this will be maybe where we see more tie-in with Azteca Underground. It's been kind of on the work side that MLW matchmaker Cesar Duran will announce matches for their El Paso debut in the next coming weeks ahead. So it seems like, again, very lucha based, lots of lucha storyline that may continue through this. And one, again, their El Paso debut. They've been very established in Dallas, but heading over to the west side of Texas in El Paso is going to be great. Brendan, you found some really interesting information that Promoción 915656 were teasing on their social media.
I'm just going to read their whole announcement here because it's super short. Confirmed, Daga arrives in El Paso August 27th and is rumored to face Alex Hammerstone for the full MLW championship. Will it be? I don't know, but it will be a very interesting fight if it happens. So there you go.
Now that's, again, I've mentioned that was promoted on Promocion's 915656's social media page. Major League Wrestling has not announced anything official. So, but if that's a teaser ahead, that's going to be a really great match for August 27th, and very much in line with seemingly kind of this theme of Fury Road.
Yeah, even if it's not for the title and we get to see those two guys, it's going to be a good match.
Yes, and we haven't seen Daga really wrestling in the U.S. for a few years now.
Yeah, it's been since the pandemic, really.
Yeah, he kind of took the pandemic off. It was never really decided whether that was intentional or not, but that's what he's done. I'm just looking at other things that 9156 has done recently, and they've had some big names on their cards that I need to put up more alerts when these guys put stuff out, because I was aggressively covering them, and I've missed a bunch of really big events they've been doing.
Yeah, and this one too, even in the press release that MLW mentioned, it is very community oriented. Tickets are sold locally through different businesses, and the venue is actually El Paso Austin High School. And it's noted as a destination for El Paso Lucha Libre. So it's also very community oriented, which I think is a really great touch to this. So I think it's great for El Paso, in general to just be associated with this, but also great for MLW to really. I mean, we've had these aspects of Azteca Underground with the tapings in Mexico and Dallas, but it's gonna have a different feel in El Paso.
If you go onto their YouTube channel and see their matches, a lot of their matches are held in the parking lot behind a taco store. So, they're very community minded and very much about doing the show. They did outdoor Lucha Libre. I believe that was they were one of the ones that did, drive-in Lucha before AAA turned it into a next level sort of thing during lockdown.
Yeah, those drive-in shows were wild.
So we'll be excited to see the match announcements that come out over the next few weeks regarding Fury Road on August 27th. But we're going to focus on the now, and that's this week in MLW. 2 matches on Fusion this week. We start off with the Samoan SWAT team that is Jacob Fatu, Lance Anoi, and of course Juicy Finau. Team up to face Cesar Duran's Los Aztecas. And in your main event, this is a trios match of trios matches. Fantasy book this whole thing. The team of Strange Sangre, and that is Mini Abismo Negro, Aries, and Holodead versus the trio of Lince Dorado, Taya Valkyrie, and Microman.
Microman.
Did not make this up. I did not pull names out of a hat. This was not a Mad Libs of just like randomly putting together people. This is an actual trios match that aired tonight on Major League Wrestling. Now, this is from a series of Fusion tapings that happened in Philadelphia at the 2300 Arena. I mentioned that because there's a few familiar faces that pop up during the main event. If you have not seen it, I've already seen it posted several times on social media just today, but by the time you listen to this show, you may see some pretty infamous pictures of Microman hanging out with the Sandman.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. It's 2 legends of the ring in the ring together, sharing cervezas, hitting people with kendo sticks. It is the team I never knew I always wanted.
This sounds amazing.
It was.
Is it a full-size? Does Microman have a full-size kendo stick?
No.
So it's a Microman-sized kendo stick.
Yes,
that's better.
Oh.
But the beer is full-size. The man drinks a full-size cerveza.
Oh, I mean, like he should. But
Yes,
That's like 6 beers for you or I. Like, can you imagine pounding a 6-pack and then going to town with a kendo stick on some guys? Like,
oh man, why is they not the tag team I need?
I know.
Sandman and Microman, can we have more? More, please. Please, sir, can I have another?
Microman would actually be destroyed if he tried to do Sandman's old ECW entrance where he just drinks all the beer on the way to the ring.
I mean, yes, but also, Microman is no ordinary man. He is the pound for pound best luchador in the entire world.
Not wrong. Just, wow. So much.
How is it, too, that you team up with Lince Dorado and Taya and still Microman is the center of the story?
Because it's Microman.
It's Microman. MLW is booking geniuses. They struck gold with Microman. They just have, but
No, they didn't strike it. They found it. They just, because he was out there. He's out in the wild for a
Yes.
while.
Oh yeah, he's out there for a while, but they definitely found it. And again, that's just this. You got to watch it for yourself. You just have to watch the match for yourself, and especially what happens afterward.
I don't feel like spoilers is actually going to ruin that moment. I think it's just going to make it better.
Oh yeah. Well, again, it's not so much spoilers with it. I mean, the Sandman does come out to help Microman, but it's something that words cannot justify. You just literally have to see.
You have to, right.
I mean, if you haven't seen the pictures already, I've seen already a plethora of pictures on social media just of that image of Microman and Sandman.
Oh man.
It's worth the price of admission.
Diving in.
Worth the price of admission, yeah. So, but again, two great matches this week on MLW Fusion. Again, the main event, Strange Sangre versus Lince Dorado, Taya Valkyrie, and Microman. Quite a trios match. Check it out on Major League Wrestling's YouTube page, along with all the previous episodes of Fusion. They had some great matches last week, and the weeks before. And of course, all of the tapings that they do, are a few months, past, but everything that, they do in these live shows, we do see, on Fusion. So I do know that as well. Something that they advertise, for next week is we have Real One, aka formerly known as Enzo Amore versus Lince Dorado on next week's episode, of Fusion. So if you are a 205 Live fan, and you want to do that throwback, watch next week's episode of Major League Wrestling Fusion. That's a throwback. Wow.
Yeah. I always enjoyed Enzo. He got a bad rap because he was kind of a goofball and had some issues there, but I always thought he was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing?
Yes. And he's bringing that attitude to MLW, been able to still really not so much on kind of the comedic side, very much in just a douchey way.
He's very different wrestler these days. Yeah,
yes.
Very, very interesting. And against Lince Dorado, who too is much more serious now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's going to be exciting.
Yes, going to be a good match. So make sure you watch that again. Major League Wrestling Fusion is on YouTube for free. Free. You don't have to pay anything for it. Only 1 hour a week. Very minimal time commitment. Very easy to watch. Very entertaining to watch. And of course, don't forget to follow Major League Wrestling on more information regarding announcements for Fury Road. And of course, to see what happens with their partnership with Boss Fight Studios. Cannot wait to see the action figures, the first wave that will come out next year. But, up next, we talk about free because free is good. Brendan, one of the things that we love to talk about is luchacentral.com.
Right.
Because it is free, but can you tell us more about it?
Well, I mean, we're just going to dive right into this. If you're listening to this, you haven't visited luchacentral.com. It's time to do it. luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. You can find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. It's a place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of this, as we already mentioned, we're going to just keep saying it though, it's free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Thank you, Brendan. Now I told you we're doing some things a little bit differently this week. We actually have a surprise for all of you. We are going to be sharing with you our interview that we held at Expo Lucha with the Dos Hermanos Lucha. Yes, Jimmy and Corey. The Hermanos themselves had a very big presence at Expo Lucha this year. They had just even a sliver of their Lucha Libre mask collection there. And it really was a curation of masks that highlight luchadors who had a presence and a history at the 2300 Arena, including Rey Mysterio, Hoovy, Psychosis, and more. So we're excited to bring this interview to you all, recorded live at Expo Lucha. Myself and Brendan, before we get to the interview, Brendan, any kind of quick tidbits for the listeners regarding this interview with Dos Hermanos Lucha?
Well, as we were talking about off the air, these guys are all around the world of wrestling. We may have focused a little on the collection because that's what they had on display, but these are, I mean, you can pick up on it even in this interview. These are guys that know their way around the wrestling world. They know a lot of the wrestlers personally, and I mean, it's just they're very well educated guys on this, and it comes across in this interview really well.
Yeah, it was, one of those things as well where we knew of each other. We had talked maybe and communicated with each other virtually, but never met in person. So it was also great to just be able to connect face to face and really get to see their collection live, but also Jimmy and Corey's excitement to be there. They'll talk a little bit too about their journey from just attending Expo Lucha to exhibiting at Expo Lucha. And even just kind of their contributions to Expo Lucha this year. So we are thrilled to be able to bring you this interview. This is myself, Miranda Morales, and Brendan Barr talking with Jimmy and Corey, Dos Hermanos Lucha. Hello and welcome back to the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Miranda Morales here with Brendan Barr, and we are standing at the biggest table at Expo Lucha, the most extravagant, the most detailed, the most visual, most beautiful table of all of Expo Lucha, and that belongs to Los Hermanos Lucha here. And gentlemen, I mean, tell us about your Expo Lucha experience and this display. Look, my words cannot provide justice to this display, but you have brought your personal mask collection to Expo Lucha to share it, fortunately, with all of us. I mean, tell us about this experience, but also just bringing this collection to life.
First of all, wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a great introduction.
Yes.
True words, so true.
Thank you.
She did the best.
Thank you, yes. Very, very humbling.
Yes.
We were joking around with somebody about 15 minutes ago saying there's a fine line between dedication and obsession, so we're somewhere in between there. Like Miranda alluded to, we brought a lot of the Lucha Libre gear that was used by the gentleman that had the ECW invasion in 1995, 1996. Three in particular being Rey Mysterio Jr., Psychosis, and Juventud Guerrera. So these are three guys that we grew up idolizing, watching mainly in WCW. Really just started getting plugged into the ring-worn stuff within the last 10 years and have had so many doors open up for us, with the networking and everything that we've been able to do and the research to obtain a lot of these pieces to preserve. And it's just been an amazing weekend to have this stuff, set up with all of the Rey and Hoovy and Psychosis and some modern luchadors to share with everybody. And it's just been an awesome experience. Can't thank Mass Republic and the Expo Lucha team enough for having us.
I think one thing too that you guys have done is you have raffled off 2 masks. Yesterday, you raffled off a Hoovy mask, Psychosis, I'm sorry. Today is the Hoovy mask. Tell us a little bit about that selection process too, because as any collector, you collect, you build, and then to kind of let go of pieces or, to part with them. So why was that important to you to do at Expo Lucha? How did you decide which kind of mask to let go?
I think most importantly, we are so passionate about this, and we see how passionate everybody else is about this, and we wanted to be able to share that with everyone, and wanted to have something that was, not just a replica, but something that came from the Busio family, the family who created the original masks for these guys back in the 90s. So we wanted to kind of try to give back to other fans, and so that was something fun. And I can't take credit for that. Jim's the one that get the wheels rolling on everything. Psychosis, Hoovy had to go with those two because of being ECW, Invasion, and we knew they were going to be here. They're under the Legends and Legends of Lucha Libre, under the Mass Republic licensing with all the awesome stuff with Boss Fight. So we wanted to try to, include that. And Psychosis was awesome yesterday, coming over, being involved with signing the mask, getting a picture with the winner. We're hoping Hoovy can do the same today. Just really having a great time here, and thankful to be able to provide something for the fans here.
So you have more than just masks here, because right behind you there is a display that has an Expo Lucha label on it too. So why don't you describe what you got here? Maybe tell a little bit of the story about how that came about.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So in 2018, we were unable to make it to the first Expo Lucha out in Las Vegas. And we saw everything streaming online, and we're like, why are we not there? We have to make this happen at the next one. They announced it was going to be in San Diego. My brother and I had never been to the West Coast. Actually, together. My brother was there before on his own, but he and I have never made the trip. So we're like, all right, we're going to make this happen. As we usually do before a show, we lay out, what our goals are going to be for the weekend, with pieces we'd like to obtain. And we talked to Kevin, knowing that Psychosis was part of the Legends of Lucha Libre team, and said, it'd be awesome to line up the mask, or one of the masks that he uses that weekend. He said, okay, I'll talk to Ruben and we'll get something lined up. So I think we may have even had some input on what the gear was.
Yeah.
He asked us.
Yeah, we wanted
colors.
we want colors, and it's like, can't believe that they're even allowing us to pick the color. We want a mask, and you're asking us what colors, and so we had to go with the OG.
Yep, yeah, the white and orange. So we get to the event. I think Nicho wrestled twice that weekend, I believe. Mm-hmm. And the first event for him was on Saturday, and he comes out, in the full gear, the old school with the. I don't want to call it a skirt because it sounds like I'm offending him, but I'm not sure what that, more or less. Yeah, we'll still call it a kilt. Yeah, with the kilt and, the Aztec design and everything on it, and just a really awesome look. So, obviously we were pumped, with the mask and the wig and everything, because with his longer hair, some of his modern masks actually are open on the top, but for display purposes, having the wig, just really brings the whole thing together. So after the match, we go back and meet Psychosis, and he has the mask there. And as Corey and I usually get giddy and our eyes get a little big, we're like, well, how much would it be for everything from top to bottom? He thinks about it because he's not used to hearing the question, and says, throws a number at us, and we look at each other and we're like, all right, let's do it. So he goes back and gets everything out. And we didn't even get it signed that night because it was actually soaking wet. And there's a really cool picture that, in hindsight it was cool, but in the moment it was just literally what we needed to do. But we went back to the hotel, and there was a drying rack in there, and all the pieces of the Psychosis gear with the wrist guards and the pants and the kilt and the mask and everything is hanging in there drying. And then we posted that up and said, this is just another typical night in the Dos Hermanos Lucha hotel room on a road trip. So we got the full display here. And then the next day we did get everything signed, and he inscribed Expo Lucha 2019 with the date on it, August 17th. So it's a really awesome piece that we tie a memory to, for the interaction between my brother and I, but also someone who we idolized since the 90s. So it's extremely special for us, and also to share it with everybody else. It's very cool.
Yeah. That leads to another quick question. You have such an extensive collection. What is still missing? Are there items that are missing on that bucket list?
Well, we're still not 100% sure where the mask is, but I grew up, Hoovy was my idol. I told him last night, got a little emotional. But Hoovy was my idol growing up, and when Jericho took his mask, it was like a dagger to the heart. Growing up, as kids. And I asked Hoovy if, Jimmy and I both have talked to Hoovy extensively about where did that mask go? It's such an awesome mask and such a historic piece. And so that would be high on my bucket list. So the story we got from Hoovy is he reached out. Jericho always responds, but when he asks the question, do you still have that mask? Jericho ghosted him. So Jericho may be the only one that can answer this question. If he
Chris Jericho. Everyone loved Chris Jericho.
Yes.
Where's the mask?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So if anybody knows where that's at, please reach out.
Yeah.
But that would be up there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a funny story because in traditional lucha, if you get beat for it, the opponent that beat you gets to keep it, and Jericho having such, rich history roots of coming, wrestling in Mexico, and alongside Hoovy, not only there, but Japan, and then all through, pretty much all over the world. he stuck with that tradition, allegedly, as per what Hoovie had told us. So yeah, that would definitely be the highest on the list, I think, of things that really would feel like it's home, if we would end up landing that. And then I was recently asked too, personally, it was a one-on-one, what individual luchador, not so much as the mask. And, if you could have any mask from anybody, basically, who would it be? And without missing a beat, I said Rey Mysterio. I'm currently standing in front of, I think we're at like 31 original Rey Mysterio masks. And to our knowledge, nobody other than Rey, even Hayashi, we've gotten some things from Hayashi, nobody other than Rey that we know of has this many original Reys. And it's...
plus a whole line, plus, mannequin heads. Like, you literally have the most extensive one that you're absolutely right. I could not guess anyone other than the man himself to have this many of his masks.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, and I say that in a humbling way because if somebody does have it, I just love to see it. It's not even saying I'd want it for my collection, but it's, we're always wanting it.
Well, we would.
Well, I stand corrected.
So other than Rey, though, is there anybody else that is high on the list? We know you were focusing on the ECW wrestlers, but there's a wide world of lucha, which is well represented here, even with the ECW thrust. Is there anybody that you might see that's on near the top of the list for you, or that's a high interest?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I still go back to the 90s. I'd love to, kind of a long-term goal is to gather the guys that a lot of fans don't really remember about, the Lizmark and the Super Calo and the Ciclope, and, a lot of those luchadors, I'd love to uncover a lot of that stuff and put together just more of our childhood. I've said it time and time again, the passion that really drives us is keeping the child alive in us with the wrestling and the collecting of the Lucha Libre gear. And so I think, that's not a direct answer of, one individual, but, I think that's kind of a goal that's fun. The hunt is just as much fun as landing it. So I think for me, I don't know if you have anything to add.
For sure. I think the only other one would be, an original La Parka from WCW. That would be one that we would love. Obviously, we photo match the stuff to a T, and that is a little bit harder, because you could find an old WCW style, but it's very hard because all of his masks were very much the same with the, the original black and white. But I would say he's up there on the list. Yeah, we do love a lot of, the modern guys, like obviously with Penta and Phoenix, unbelievable. Big fans of some of the CMLL guys, Soberano Jr., Templario, Aldaz. So some of those, masks we still try to add to the collection. But yeah, like Jimmy said, growing up, as little kids, that's just, you can't beat that feeling when you find something that, you have a memory tied to growing up. And we shared this our entire lives, so it means, more than just individual memories together. So
yeah, absolutely.
You talked about your experience talking with Hoovie, having him sign the Psychosis signing, and of course just your interaction with Hoovie last night. Tell us more just about your sense of the Expo Lucha experience. I mean, this has been 2 years in the making. What does it mean for you guys just to be here, both in displaying, but also as Lucha Libre fans?
Yeah, I think, I don't know whether it was because we've just been secluded from everybody for so many years, and I haven't traveled much, really outside of my bubble in the last few years. But as I was packing my gear, and getting all this stuff ready, I'm not going to lie, I got a little emotional that this was actually coming to a head and we were going to be able to do this and get back to, our sense of normalcy, or, the normalcy prior to, COVID that we were used to. And to see it all come together, and to see a lot of fans still here. We know, with visas and, with COVID, still, and, keeping a lot of fans and other talent from being here. There's still a lot of people that have come out, and I think it's just been great, all weekend so far, and it's been great having the conversation with the fans. The individual luchas have been awesome. Everything that we're hearing is positive from the fans, and that's exactly what we wanted. We want to continue to help any way that we can, with the Master Republic team, and to help spread the love of lucha and introduce it to those that, may not, have ever seen it before. So.
So we still have a bit of Expo Lucha ahead of us here, so I'm going to look a little bit ahead. Tonight is the more of a legend focused show. Is there anything you guys are looking forward to that tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you see Solar over here, and it's still surreal, right to the left of us, and his son, and they're both great guys. I keep saying last year, but at last Expo, bowling with those guys. It was hilarious. We kept chopping each other and stuff, and like we always reminisce at the hotel later on of what went down,
So competitive.
And yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's just so awesome to get to see those guys on a human level, because I mean they've done things that are crazy for Lucha Libre, and just so I would say definitely looking forward to seeing the legends in the ring, that's what I love with Expo Lucha. You get to see a good mix of the younger talent and the legends, leyendas. So yeah, it's for sure. And I did want to throw in real quick too that in 2019. This guy surprised me, Jimmy, pointing to here, surprised me with the Expo Lucha tickets for Christmas. So that's how I found out we were going. So that was like such a cool thing to set it off. And then when Kevin reached out too after we started collecting and said about exhibiting, first it was, oh my God, we're going to Expo Lucha. Then he asked exhibiting, and we're like freaking out. So it's just been a blast this weekend, and really looking forward to tonight's show.
Thank you so much for your time. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you on social media? Plug whatever you like, because, man, people need to see these masks.
Yes, so we are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Search at Dos Hermanos Lucha. We can be found on all three platforms. Love meeting new collectors, so please reach out. I'd love to meet you, and shout out to everybody we did meet today, because we feel like that we know so many people because we communicate a lot on social media, and to get to put a face with it and meet them in person was very special for us.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mass, Mats, and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions, or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
All right. We are back. Thank you again to Jimmy and Corey, Dos Hermanos Lucha. Make sure to follow them on social media. They're on Facebook and Instagram. They also have previous episodes of the Dos Hermanos Lucha podcast on the Lucha Central podcast network, which you can find on Lucha Central's YouTube page as well as Spotify and all of that. Again, just to see those masks in person and all of just the history that they bring to the arena, it was just amazing to see in person, and great to meet them in person as well. It's like a family reunion with people that you've never met, but know that somehow you're related to. That's how I would describe Expo Lucha.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of my family reunions. There's a lot of people there that I've never met, but I know I'm related to them somehow.
Yes, one big fiesta. Well, that does it for this week's episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Thank you so much for listening and joining us as we go for a little different format this week, but one we hope you enjoy. Of course, do not forget to check out luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. You can also check out Lucha Central on social media at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at Lucha Central.com on Twitter. I just mentioned it, but don't forget, Lucha Central's YouTube page has a ton of content, including previous episodes of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast in English and in Espanol, previous podcasts like Dos Hermanos Lucha, and much, much more, on the YouTube page, interviews, matches, stuff that you just cannot find anywhere else. While you're at it, go ahead and follow us on social media. Dusty, can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Yeah, I am on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy, and I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
I am 321 T-shirt guy. That's the numbers 321, and then T-shirt guy is all spelled out. And I am on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm all over the Twitter.
And me, Miranda Morales, you can find me at the hashtag Miranda, hashtag spelled out, on Instagram and Facebook, no Twitter. If you are listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, say Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Subscribe so that way you get a new notification every time an episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast drops. You can leave us a 5-star rating and go ahead and leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your opinions. Let us know things that we should talk about or stop talking about. We won't know unless you tell us.
Right?
Yeah, that's just, we don't know. We're not mind readers. That's not how this works.
I mean, I want to be, but I'm not that cool.
Yes. Well, don't forget to join us next week for a new episode of the podcast. For Brendan Barr and Dusty Murphy, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you all, and we'll be with you next week.